Those of you watching this on YouTube who have been YouTubers or YouTube followers for a while probably recognize this emblem of the AK guy. What you probably don't know is that the AK guy is producing AKs. That's what we're going to take a look at next, coming up on GBGuns. AKs are something near and dear to my heart. One of my first guns that I really enjoyed was this Wasser, which, as you can see, has been heavily modified. Used to run this thing in 3-gun competitions, ran it at going to different shooting schools like Front Sight, etc. Love this thing, buttery smooth, and it became my test mule that I put all kinds of experimental parts on and things like that, and the gun just would not stop running. Love it, got thousands of rounds through it. This is not the AK guy's AK, but I bring it up because this is a Romanian Wasser, as you saw on the stamp on the other side there. And the Wassers, for the longest time, were kind of laughed at, and the joke was, oh yeah, it's just a budget military gun, or it's surplus parts and made from random things, etc., etc. And then over time, the Wasser lore or public opinion changed, and they're now considered to be sort of the best you can get out there of commonly available parts. Now, a lot of guns like this one, I think this might have been brought in by Century Arms long ago. I bought this thing used for $350 about 14 years ago. But the Wassers quickly became the standard of what you want for a good quality piece. And what really impressed me with the AK guy's AK is these are made off of virgin Romanian parts kits. See, it's marked AKG 47, and you don't have any of that Romanian marking on it. That's because this was a virgin kit, so it's a fully brand new rifle, and that's what we're going to be taking a look at. So you have to forgive my setup here for tabletops. Doesn't necessarily work best for rifles because they don't always fit on here, but did want to give you a look at this thing. So this is one of the Russian red models, as they're calling it, from the AK guy. And you can see it's got a nice refinished stock in red, as I mentioned earlier, produced from all virgin parts kits. Give you a look at some of the rivet job there. One of the things that I noticed right away was the divot for stopping the safety is pretty shallow. And what that means is this is really easy to swipe up and down, and it's nicely spaced so it doesn't go too high and run over the top. I've had a few AKs where that little divot on the safety, which is what makes that smiley, yes, that line is completely normal, but it would run over the top and then get stuck on the top, and then you've got to really fight to get the thing from safe to fire. So the metal itself is Cerakoted. Like I said, all new parts, refinished wood stocks. It's got the palm swell bottom end to it. Cerakoted metal. We have a Tapco slot brake up here, the spoon, if you will. This is the classic compensator, and yes, it's supposed to be angled like that, and that's because the AK tends to come up and right as it fires, so having that slot there helps push it down and left and mitigate there. Take a look inside this thing. It comes in your basic box, and with one of these X-Tech magazines. The X-Tech is very similar to the US Palm magazine. We do have metal reinforcement on the front and back where it should be. When we take this thing out to shoot it, I'm going to do a what's for dinner of sorts with all of the various magazines that are out there. I've got quite a variety, everything from Croatian mags to American mags, Romanian mags, etc., to see how they fit on this. In fact, I'll show you how this X-Tech fits in a second. Do have the ribbed top cover. You can see has been coated inside and out. To show you that mag fit. Lockup is solid, and we have almost no wiggle. which is great. Some wiggle can happen and the guns still run fine, but it's just a preference. So you saw how I removed the top cover there by pushing on the spring and pulling up. Get the spring out. We do have the 2-part non-bonded recoil assembly with a nice, good-looking spring there. Man, I haven't seen a built from new AK in quite some time. Here's our gas piston. You can see, wow, no threading or staking mark on there. And our bolt. Non-spring loaded bolt. And then taking a look inside, this does come with the Tapco G2 trigger. We have one of those plates in there to keep the pins from walking out, which is nice. And you can tell by the polish here that this has been polished to have a little less drag. Some of that fighting when working the action earlier happens when you have drag from this hammer hump on the bottom of the bolt carrier. But that should smooth out. This thing, I believe, is unfired. Well, aside from the test fire that Brandon Herrera himself does on all of these before they run out. Give you a look at the feed system in there. Everything looks nice and cleanly done. That's on there nice and snug. I'm not going to fight it to pull the gas tube off. Doesn't really need to come off. But just wanted to give you a nice up close and personal look at the build quality. We do have a rail on there. I have this because we'll be doing a full review for a magazine article that's going to actually include some of the story of the AK guy and how his company came to be, how these guns came to be. Those of you that are in the AK community, I'm sure, are aware of his announcement of working on and his progress towards making a 50 cal AK. It's been going pretty well. I had the distinct honor of being present actually when John Patton from the Gun Collective did his announcement of it. I was off camera hanging out in the back there, but yeah, I was there and it was pretty exciting. Looking forward to running this thing. I think we're going to leave it just as it is, not even use that scope mount, and just run it like an AK and run it hard. What do you guys think? I mean, in such a classic, beautiful configuration, I think it would be wrong to tweak this thing out a whole bunch. I just want to see how it runs out of the box. That's the AK guy, AK-47. Thanks for watching.